Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So we got some info that we're going to share, and we're going to do a video up on Patreon, a lot more in-depth with using some words that we might be shy of using in certain places. But first, I wanted to do this over on HEEARTS to kind of recap some basics. I think we need to recap what we do know to be the truth. You will find a lot of truth again in the Hindu scriptures. There's a lot there that is very, very accurate as far as, the period after we leave the body. What is the big reality when it comes to our everything? Well, we're on a soul's journey. The soul is an individuated spark of source, the one source of all, of which we all have that source in us, and we are in fact a spark, a divine spark, a fractal of that source.
Indeed.
So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, and so the context here is right before a major war, a major battle. The main character there, or I should say the main proponent, is basically faced with the feeling like he doesn't want to carry through his part in the battle. Now, this is an allegory in so many ways, but yet it is also based on real fact. And then there's a lot of spiritual truths to take through this. So, when we look at our own soul's journey, it is one in which every decision that we make is affecting our path. And we can, in my mind, branch off into different paths at any time. And when we come to big decisions again, big earth-shattering decisions for the soul, we may often wonder, what if we had done something differently? Well, I do think that what we're doing as we're in this journey is literally creating a world that we can revisit in the future, even though time itself is a construct of being embodied. But we can go back and review and learn and rerun things. It is like a game that we're in, but again, this is the game of life in which has real consequences. Everything that we experience, we can take with us. We can take our experiences with us. We cannot take anything material with us, but we do take our experiences and we do take our learning. And then we can, again, analyze in that period after life, the life in between lives, and we can run down different possibilities and then decide, what's the best journey to take next time. So this right here is, again, Krishna, who is thought to be a incarnation of Vishnu. But what I would say is Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu in the sense that he understands the big picture. He has that Krishna consciousness, which many people talk about Christ consciousness, but the Krishna consciousness is perhaps the original version of the Christ consciousness when you get down to it. Never was there a time when I did not exist. Now, if we look at it biblically, it would end there. So they wouldn't share the next part, because the next part blows paradigms. Nor you. Okay, so never was there a time that I didn't exist. Never was there a time when you didn't exist. Nor all these kings who are about to battle, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. You don't get blown out like a candle. In reality, it's just walking through a doorway. You walk through one doorway into another reality forever. And that is, again, the bigger scheme of things. The constructors of the dark matrix, they understand this, and they want to keep you locked into their reality where they can utilize your energy. But we're going where they can't follow. And that's the big takeaway. Everything that they're doing right now, which we're going to go into a lot more detail in Patreon, is about keeping you in their neighborhood, so to speak. Just as the embodied soul continuously passes from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, at the time of death, the soul passes into another body. The wise are not deluded by this. Now, this doesn't mean that immediately when you die, you will find yourself going down the birth canal and popping out of your mom's womb. Not that quickly, no. But you're going to shift your consciousness into the astral realm. You're going to be in a more energetic body, and you're going to do typically your life review. And, you also, in most cases, will be greeted by loved ones and guides and given a warm welcome and made to feel comfortable. And then you sit down and you do your work. It's doing your homework on your life. And, it's said in the Bible again, that there's a judgment after you die, but it doesn't tell you that you're the one that judges. And you're the one that decides the next path. This is, again, how they can give you a little bit of a truth in the control system and not give you enough to where you understand clearly what's going on, but almost it'll lead you down the wrong path. So he goes on to say, everything that we have is non-permanent. Man, I had a great breakfast. It was delicious, but it's gone. It's being digested, and I'm thankful for the nutrients. May it make this vehicle strong and healthy, and that's the type of thing that we should be doing, praying over our food. Also asking that all those that made that food possible be blessed, happy, and free as well. When we pay it forward, so to speak, when we give thanks and have a center of gratitude, and we put intention also into the mix, that's very powerful, because again, we already said source is in us. So, the ultimate creator, it resides in you, and you are creating your own reality. And we're all intersecting and interacting in this consensus reality too. Doesn't mean we're all going to go down the same path. And in fact, again, none of us actually share the exact same path.
I think when it comes to the first one, the Gita 2.12, I look at that one and I realize that it's only really the human mind that needs a beginning and an ending. When you are in a position where you're out of body and you're having this experience, whether it be truly out of body or NDE, that goes away. That thought of, where does it begin and where does it end? Those thoughts they come from our human mind, and they're designed to get us to ask questions. But if you step out of the human mind, a lot more things come open. To me, the mind really, its job is to get us to ask questions. So a lot of times, shutting the door on something, you're not going to get anything answered unless you open that door, ask that question, and allow that information to come and flow freely.
Absolutely. So, again, everything is impermanent. Everything is always going through changes of sorts. And we're going through a dramatic change right now. And it's, the biggest change that happens in thousands of years. So it's monumental. Absolutely. Now what they're getting into is what we might call Buddhist detachment, but originally Buddhism comes out of the Hindu belief set too, and they're in agreement. Everything is non-permanent, comes and goes, like winter and the summer seasons. You must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Staying placid, tranquil, at peace, even when things are awesome. Yes, allow yourself to be soaked in the happiness, but again, don't let yourself be pulled down when things are tough. And it's tough because we're embodied, and so every single cell of our body is communicating with the other cells all the time. And when we're releasing cortisol and stress hormones, they're agitated. So you have all these billions of conversations going on inside you as you are a universe unto yourself. And, these conversations, they can be made more harmonious when we take control of the situation and don't allow ourselves to be pulled into that negative spiral.
Right. That's something where sometimes you have to become very deliberate in the idea where you have to pull that information up and make it better, because it's so easy just to get stuck in the downward spiral. I, for one, am really good at giving myself a very hard time, but then I have to realize that I can't do that, because that's information that I'm giving my field of consciousness, and that's information that it's going to go seek out. So we have to be very careful these days.
Absolutely. So again, not allowing ourselves to become overly swayed by both the positive and the negative, staying on an even keel. And again, everything is transient. Of the transient, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, there is no cessation. One of those things that always gets to me is, who created us? Well, ultimately, nobody, because we always were. But again, energy and consciousness, it just simply changes. It changes, and it never really stays exactly still. It's always ebbing and flowing. So when you understand that you are eternal, yet the you that's you there right now is not the same you, in a sense, as you've already gone through so many learning experiences in this lifetime, than say you that was 5 years old. There's been changes to your consciousness. The change is eternal. And so at the core, again, we are a consciousness of which there's no destroying it. It cannot be destroyed. It can be waylaid, and it can get stuck in loops, and that is something to be aware of.
Very, very aware of that, yeah.
And in fact, that's really part of what is ongoing right now in the bigger scheme of things. So again, do not fear that you're going to have your eternal life, so to speak, taken from you. It cannot be taken from you. But can we basically go down a negative spiral, which may take countless lives to rectify and get back to where you are perhaps right now in frequency? Yes, that can absolutely happen. And Cindy is nodding her head.
Well, yeah, I mean, frequency is everything, and there's a lot of things you can do to enhance your frequency, or take it to a good place or take it to a bad place. It's our choice.
So that which pervades the entire body, know it to be indestructible. No one can cause the destruction of the imperishable soul. This reminds me of what I had shared once or twice a long time ago. I believe it was World War II, and there were some soldiers, I want to say, I don't know if they were Polish, and the Germans were going to execute them, and then they were just laughing, and they were kind of being jovial as they were about to be shot. And it makes all the sense in the world, because it's again about frequency. Traumatic events can make it so that the soul has a longer journey getting back into a positive flow.
Well, traumatic events really affect the harmony of your body and the harmony of the things that are around you. And that's what makes, making sure you are tuned, making sure that you are in alignment. That's what helps things helps you get through life. It's like, helping things just run a little smoother. You'll notice if you get into energy work and do the things that you need to do, life just becomes a little bit easier. And it's because you're making your body, your song is more harmonious with your surroundings.
Yeah, and this is the bigger picture again. The material body is perishable. The embodied soul is indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal. So, here Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight, and what is he fighting against? It's the onslaught of the Kali Yuga, and, in fact, as Krishna leaves this world, it's said that the Kali Yuga officially began. And so it's, again, that taking the higher road, but what does the higher road look like? Well, each one of us has to make that decision. Now we're on the other side of it. We've just basically stepped out of the Kali Yuga, but the control system wants to keep us entrapped in an eternal Kali Yuga. So, again, the circumstances are in so many ways the exact opposite. What are we to do when the system wants us to fight in so many ways and to give in to hatred and to all the negative emotions? Well, the ascending path is embodying the more positive frequencies and those greater understandings of the oneness of everything, the compassion, the love, and where we can go and where we can travel to. And so many starseed light workers, in fact, I would bet almost everybody listening to this is in fact a starseed light worker. You are also something called a volunteer, and you're here not because you have a need to learn these particular lessons, though we can always glean new things from new lessons. You might reread a book and all of a sudden catch a whole bunch of new things that you didn't, notice the first time through. This is the reality. At the same time, we're here just simply because we're trying to teach the other souls and also trying to warn the other souls about getting stuck in these loops in which you may spend hundreds of lifetimes, maybe thousands of lifetimes, in a less than ideal circumstance where you actually kind of get trapped for a period of time in one of these negative karmic soul loops.
We come here and we're kind of like a candle, and realizing that your light has the ability to light 1,000 other candles all around you and continue that growth of light. I think when we realize that and we apply ourselves, the world starts to become a better place, because let's face it, right now, things are not easy. They're very difficult. And, as high as your frequency might be, that doesn't make it so you're not going to experience difficulty. These are tests for us when something comes into our life and it knocks on the door and it feels uncomfortable. Well, where are you? Is this thing that's coming into your life, is it something that is reoccurring? Is it something that's revisiting you? Many times this is just to see, where are you at on a consciousness level, and how are you perceiving that thing that just got brought up in your life? How are you perceiving it and processing it now compared to how you did a year ago? So that's how I gauge my growth.
Yeah, and so the soul is unbreakable, incombustible. It can neither be dampened nor dried. It's everlasting. It's in all places. It's unalterable. Well, wait a minute. Okay, here's where it gets confusing, because you just said this is a life journey of learning, and yet it's unalterable. It's immutable, and it is primordial. So this is where we are talking about ultimately the true self, which is the higher self. And, the higher self is on another plane of existence, so to speak, and we are connected to the higher self all the time. Now, as far as a two-way communication exchange being open, well, again, the control system has done everything they can to make it so that you can't hear the higher self when you're embodied. So they've done all they can to disconnect you from the higher self. So, as the higher self is talking and sending information, they're trying to block it as best they can. They try to drown it out with all their noise, all their technology, all their EMF, goes on and on, all their distractions. They want to disconnect you from the higher self so they can use your energy for themselves. And this is a time when we're going again into a Bronze Age in which the communication with the higher self is so much more clear, so much more readily available, that it changes our reality completely here on the embodied end. And they know this. So they're doing their best to, again, create the conditions where they can trap as many souls as possible in a lower frequency, in a more negative karmic loop, so to speak, and keep us where they could keep being the ticks and leeches that they are, the parasites that they are, siphoning off our source energy from us. Although in reality, again, we are beyond the material universe. We are beyond the four elements. Our consciousness extends even beyond the Akash or the etheric.
Mm-hmm. But we have to face the things that we're doing right now in this 3D world. I mean, it is good that we're multidimensional. There's things we can do to put that to work, but we have to face what's in front of us. And the easiest way to do that is to have a spiritual practice and be in touch with your higher self, because yes, they push us down. They put us in jobs that don't have anything to do with our destiny. And while we are being pushed down into the 3D matrix, into the dark matrix, we're not even really concerned with our higher self because we're so busy surviving. See, we're so busy working through trauma that they created, and that's how they hold people down and utilize their energy. So they definitely don't want you to spring up and have connection to the other dimensions, because they could lose your energy. Now you're not going to be available to run one of their, to work in one of their companies that is here in the dark matrix. So they definitely don't want people growing.
No, so this is the reality that's faced before us. So ultimately, there is nothing to fear. Even if we lose this physical vehicle, there's still nothing to fear. It's just basically you awaken into a new reality in your dreams. If you're able to make note of your dreams, it's you, but is it the same you? Well, it's the same you, but sometimes it's has a lot of different attributes. And this is because, again, ultimately, this is just one aspect of your real consciousness, which extends far beyond one single embodiment. Yet, as we move on into the Bronze Age, we will be able to pull so much more from other embodiments directly into this one. We will also have much clearer communication with the higher self, and also with all those beings in nature. And this is part of what Cindy was getting from the guides that we're going to share in the Patreon video that's upcoming next. So I just felt like the need to recap this for those that hadn't heard it, and also just to spend maybe 10-15 minutes on recapping these basics.
I hope you guys got something out of it.
As always, guys, you're welcome to come join us on Patreon. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.